today I'm gonna do something that I haven't done before. We are going to watch a trap producer make a techno for the first time. The main reason I'm doing this, obviously I can't pass the opportunity to roast another YouTuber, but no, that's not the reason. The main reason I can actually show things that can be improved while he's producing, because he will be producing for the first time. That could be really nice opportunities for me to show you around what is going well and bad and what can be improved. So today we are having Ocean. This pop up on my recommendation. He basically says, I learned to make techno in 24 hours. Super impressive, right?
Techno, one of the most popular and most important genres.
He got it right.
One way to describe it, pure vibes and energy.
100% correct.
So here's the thing, I come from the world of making trap. So we're gonna see what happens when a music producer makes techno for the first time.
And I'm gonna be judge of that. Let's see how it goes.
What's like some key elements that you need?
Is the speed. A lot of like the melodic techno and peak time techno is more around like 135 BPM.
The modern peak time techno track is I think around 36 to 140 nowadays, like it's getting faster. And melodic techno is nowadays 25 to 30. Most of the time stay in that range.
Kick is like sometimes the only thing in the track, and it's like 10 just layers all smashed together and compressed.
Yes, kicks are strong, but not like 10 layers.
Who would you put them onto?
I would listen
Screwy?
to people like Maddox, Space 92, this guy Bjorn's Unreal. Those would
all amazing artists, nothing there.
You're not going to believe this, but I actually used to really hate techno music. I used to think, where's the vocals? Where is the melody? But then everything completely changed. I went to Brazil and I went to this super underground rave in like a warehouse. And let's just say it was eye-opening.
Many techno listeners actually don't start listening from Spotify or anything. They will be like, one day they are in a rave and the next day they are the biggest fan. Are we seeing Ocean becoming a techno producer? Like Ocean becomes Hurricane. That is the producer name, right? Here you go. Thank me later.
For this first one, I'm going to go with a style of techno called hard groove, which is really, really groovy.
It's supposed to have these like drum elements really creating a lot of groove. Let me give you an example. If you listen to this. Right? The rumbly, kicky and groovy stuff with like some stabs on top of that. So let's see. What is his take?
And just so it's not so repetitive, I'll put in just...
The one thing with this approach, like creating a groove from kick, is a really good idea, but you have to be very careful with the length of the kick, and you should actually either volume down or like filter down. But you often do like take this part, give a bit space so that kick can pop a little bit more. But most importantly, getting an EQ or something nice, like a kick like, but not exactly the kick vibe. Right? You can volume down a bit. Small tiny thing, he doesn't need to know this one at all.
Then we'll also just put in this high tom. So now we got these three.
The one thing that he didn't do is actually choking some of the drums. So when three of them hit at the same time, they can really push the peak super hard on your master. This is our kick loudness. And this is how three toms hits. We're already clipping, right? And then when the kick hits also sometimes in together, you have like a big... So choking is a good option here.
I want to make this rumble even more. So what I'm going to do as well is just make this all
Reverb
to one audio file. And then with this, we can just EQ out most of that high end.
This kind of solves issues a bit. Hopefully he will sidechain a bit more now.
We can sidechain it to the kick.
Great!
Yay!
He's doing great up to now. What he missed probably here is like most of the time those tom percussions are actually distorted first and then filtered out afterwards. Get a bit of ambience out of it. So what you do is actually get something like echo. You can also distort, don't forget. Let's put an amp. You can distort the delay one. Then cut. This gives this like a really cool behind it. This goes super deep. This is not something that easy actually. Get things a bit delayed and then add a bit groove and play with the volumes. Bring down the volumes. Get something like a limiter in filter. I like to use aggressive mode because it passes the low end a bit more than high end. This is so much fun. You can go so deep into this. There's so many things, the layers of like making it more entertaining, more groovier. But Ocean did here is really very solid start anyways. Hopefully we tune down a bit, otherwise we are getting to the future house territory.
Well.
Oh no, bring it down a bit.
And then what I'm going to do here is just pan this one all the way to the left and this one all the way to the right.
this one is fine because it's a bit higher pitched percussions, but we tend to keep the bass grooves on the middle oftentimes.
And let's also put in a clap. And the clap that I'm going to use is again from the TR-909 machine. And I'm going to layer these two claps here.
Analog style clap is nice. Anything can work, but oftentimes this will give a bit more like you want like much tighter like analog clap sound. If you're looking at that type of sounds, I have a preset pack that is called Deviant Analog Drums. Then that has the claps of that type. Like these like really analog claps or analog drums basically that I use all the time. But that was a shameless plug. Let's go back.
And just to layer this up, what I'm going to do is duplicate it, drag this one down and find another open hat sound.
Layering heads very common. What happened to the colors? We are getting more intense with the techno takes over.
I just like to give it a little bit of delay, a little bit echo.
Makes sense. In groove tracks, like the hat's supposed to be very tight, like a so it was a bit too bad. But you do oftentimes like a closed hat, and then you would oftentimes layer this one with the open hat to get that little fat hat sound. Make that shorter. Super cool, isn't it? Then you get something like a free clip, shave that transient. You see how it looks here. And most of the times you can even see people actually reverb distort it, meaning that you get the reverb first and then distort the reverb to get even this like more squishy sound. Very classic example, you get a plate reverb, get it all the way short, and then you'd overdrive it. I like overdrive because then you can color control, and then we have, right? Just like that. And then you will actually more and more layers later on while the track continues, right? If you're enjoying the video up to now, please consider like and subscribe. It really helps a ton. This is cool.
Let's go ahead and put a melody on top of this. Such a vibe. When the vocals come in.
I'm so curious. This is so housey vocals. You'll see what he does.
I'm going to use stem splitter to just split up the stems. So I'm actually putting together everything minus the vocals.
I'm surprised because we have quite a bit of drums at the moment. Another thing with these hardcore tracks is actually you start to clutter things, then you start to lose that grooviness of the track. Right? You have this clear. Each instrument is alive and has its own space, even though we have a lot of stuff going on. Being careful with the layers are important.
And then what we can do is just take a section and drag it into the quick sampler. It chops it all up.
You can take the trap from a trap producer, but you can't take the sample slice, I guess.
So let's try and find a pattern that can go with this.
He's creating melody than drums now, so let's see.
That sounds good for the chops. We definitely need to put some effects on it. So
also fades, although at those end and in points,
one
I
thing
think.
I've been doing a lot lately is saving my effects racks as a chain.
Ableton users, we always do that.
So I've got one for sample chops. Let's throw that in. Oh, crazy.
Yeah, that worked well. I'm feeling like we are about to make an underground house track and like a hard groove, but let's go.
Got two stabs and they're from a plugin called Orbits. Add to the groove. And I'm doing the same thing as well with these two chords here. So it sounds like this by itself, but add it to the groove.
While those layers are very nice, they are really starting to take away from our groove and we are feeling less groove and more melody. And that is what makes the track more house than more hard groove.
Some vocal chops to really tie this all together. That's that bit that I like the most. That makes me love you.
Agreed, super cool.
And I want it to be really repetitive.
So we probably need some kind of sub bass to balance everything out, but we will see.
This is what we got now.
Okay, that is the sub bass. Fine.
Fire! I like this one.
This almost gives me a little bit PTSD because when I started making techno tracks, I was a house producer, and every time I sit down to create this like a peak time techno track, every single time I would end up like making house tracks, and this gives me like this PTSD, like remembering. I have an example. This one is actually me and Andrea. We decided to make a hard techno track, super hard techno track, and this is what we did.
The rhythm is grooving, let me take you on the floor. My rhythm is grooving, it want some more.
This is of course just a sketch throwing in ideas. But this happens to every one of us. You start a track making something and you end up making completely something else. The most important thing is of course if the track is good. In this case, I think he made a super cool track. It needs a bit of work on the low end and the groove, but I think it's a cool idea nevertheless. Especially considering that this was his first techno track, right? Bear in mind, very good. So I may reconsider what I think about the trap producers. Let's see the second one.
This next one, I want to go for something a bit more harder.
It's exactly what you feel. So you decided to make a techno track, you end up making something else, and then you're like, no, this time I'm going super hard.
There's this really classic plugin called Rave Generator. Honestly,
correct. It's a very classic plugin. The plugin just has the samples of famous rave tap sounds from different synthesizers or samples as well.
So let's see what we can find. And then I think I might even just layer that with another ravey kind of sound.
As you would do.
A song that's kind of popped in mind that might be cool to sample with this is a Dizzy Rascal track. Situation.
I'm really curious how this will end up. This reason why more trap producers should come and produce techno, because I'm sure they will bring a lot of new stuff, fresh things to the techno sound.
So there's this bit here. And then I'll just chop it from there to make it fit the BPM that we got.
My name is Rasket. Listen to my flow.
That's a perfect techno sample actually.
I put together these vocals.
Listen to my flow.
So with the stabs now.
The stabs needs really kind of a filter on the resonance and even maybe top layer to make it like a stronger, because when you layer these things, this can disappear a bit on the mix.
I got this massive techno kick loaded up. Let's throw that in.
Again, you cannot just throw a kick and call it, hey, we need the sub bass and bass, which is really important for techno. I have billions of tutorials over here if you take a look. Like a boom, right? Boom.
So I'm gonna throw in a side chain and just move it slightly over. So it's more like, got these tops.
This is actually the texture hats, we call it. Most of the time you throw like a reverb, I show you a distortion, clip them together and secures them. That creates like very washy sound, and you will layer this one under the big hat sound so that they sound even bigger.
Hats to go with the open hat that I put in.
Like that, he's doing right.
Noise, literally just like this. Then once you put on a shaper box.
If you are using white noise, shaper box automate the release time, so it's like releasing a bit more. What you do is actually get this kind of automation, so this will control how much release there will be like. Can make the groove as you want, but this is a very classic example of using that white noise to create this washy background, more humanized hat sound. This is sounding a proper peak time techno until now.
Something. Let's put a bass on this now. With the bass
line.
Yeah,
bass, finally.
And we'll just repeat that over. I'm just going to take that.
It sounded like one of those, like a Fast and Freeze track.
This is what we're starting with now. Way harder than the last one. That kick just going.
It just needs sub bass. This is definitely much more techno track than the house. Ocean, if you are watching this, actually this could be fun. Send me this track so we can have it like how it would sound if it touched by a techno producer. I don't know if he watches this, but if he watches it, that could be a nice idea. But yeah, hopefully this was a learning experience for other producers out there. But if you want to really dive deep into techno production, I have a video over here. Take a look.